Wow. I don't know about you, but I was not expecting that at the end. And I will confess that when I saw the film for the first time, I cried. It was beautiful. It was awesome. Let me introduce the visionary leader behind this film project, Eric Seals, director, producer, writer, cinematographer, all things, everything, and his father, who was and is the focus of the film, Donnie Seals. Welcome to you both. I'm Randall Pinkston with the Teaneck International Film Festival, and I am just so thrilled and honored to have the opportunity to meet both of you and to discuss bike vessels. Eric, let me just start with a very basic question. How did you select that title? I think I know what it means, but I want you to tell me.
Yeah. First off, thanks for having us here. It really means a lot to be able to have this conversation. The title Bike Vessel gets credited to my brother, who's also a producer on the project. One day he just blurted it out. He goes, "I got the perfect name for your film. It's Bike Vessel." And as soon as he said it, it just hit instantly. And he's like, "No, let me explain it to you." I'm like, "No, no, no. It's already perfect. I get exactly what you mean." And it really connects to what the bike did for my dad. It was his vessel to good health, and it allowed him to take it in another direction as far as what he was doing with his life. And so it was one of those names that as soon as it, was told to me, this is the name of the film. And so what we say when we talk about vessel, because my dad's vessel was a bike, but your vessel might be tennis or swimming. And so the thing is that we're trying to push with this is everybody has a vessel that gets them to good health. And then obviously along talking about, the heart and moving blood and stuff like that. So that's how we got to the title Bike Vessel.
Donnie Seals, what was your reaction when your son first came to you with the idea of doing a documentary about your health, your family, and your pathway to a healthier lifestyle?
Wow, that's an interesting question. Initially, I was taken back a little bit, and I think my first comments were, I do you have a story? This is, plus I'm very private.
Mm.
And so we talked about it and continued to talk about it. I have a little background in production. I know what it takes to put something like this together. And I'm saying, listen, let me be whatever I need to be to make your film all that it can be. And that's pretty much how we started. But I think initially we weren't really thinking about making a film or a documentary film. And I think Eric can talk more about, how this whole filming process started. But along that route of after filming so many different, me playing tennis and so forth, Eric said, "Hey, I think I got a story and I want to do this documentary." And I basically said, "Let me be all that I can be." So I was in 100%.
Oh, okay. So let me get back to you then, Eric. When did you come up with the idea that, wow, I can do a documentary about my dad? How did
Yeah,
that?
it wasn't, I would say, almost a solid year. At first, I was just recording him playing my now wife in a tennis match because sometimes when you play someone in a sporting event when you're a little bit older, the story changes. I'm like, let me record it. And I do a lot of home recording. Like when I go to any family gathering, I have my camera just like my dad did back in the day. I definitely get it from him. So when I'm filming at the house, nobody's even surprised. It's just, okay, Eric's just filming. And so I saw that, he bought a bike and he was starting to ride. And at that point, I'm like, I'm just going to keep recording. Now, I think it's important to know I am a documentary filmmaker. I run a production company. So this is what I do for a living. But I wasn't thinking about making a story about my father. And I think one of the key things that him and I talked about is sometimes when you're so close to the story, you can't realize the impact, because he lived that story. I lived that story, with him, obviously living in his house. And it wasn't until I start sharing it with close filmmaker friends. I got connected with the team over at Cartimquin, who's
Mhm.
responsible for Hoop Dreams and Minding the Gap. And I told them about a project I'm working on, and they were like, "Tell me more. Like, what's gonna happen next?" I'm like, "Huh." People are interested in this. And so it wasn't until I start sharing it with my community, my dad's story, where they were like, "I want to learn more."
So I noticed that there was a lot of family video of the picnics, the barbecue ribs, and all of that, the foods that we love that don't love us.
Yes.
Right,
Um,
right.
Had Was it difficult to find all of that archival video, or had you, Mr. Seals, been the IBM employee that you were, very organized and diligent about?
I'd be an employee for sure. Organized, definitely not. Eric, we had probably hundreds of VHS tapes,
Mm,
and Eric is asking me to digitize this stuff. And I spent probably 6, 8 months digging through all those VHS tapes. And finally, I decided it's easier just to digitize everything, let him deal with it.
mhm.
But these are videotapes that I had been taking over the course of, since I've been married, actually from college.
I
Uh,
love I'm sorry to interrupt, but I love the pictures of Eric and his sister. I'm going to get you some kind of present. That was just, that was so.
yeah. Actually, I think that was Donnie Jr. and
Oh yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
daughter Nicole. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Okay, so we don't have a lot of time here, but I just want to make sure that I also get your take on how you managed to integrate medicine and all of those great sound bites from Dr. Mason. By the way, who is Dr. Mason, and how did you come to include him in the film, as well as some references to racial discrimination, not only on the ride, but with respect to you, Mr. Seals, during your employment at IBM. But let's take the doctor first. Dr. Mason,
Yeah, Dr. Terry Mason. I first learned about him. I saw him in the documentary Forks Over Knives, and I thought he was incredible. And
what was
then
the name of the documentary?
it's called Forks Over Knives.
Oh, Forks Over Knives. Gotcha. Okay.
Uh-huh. And so I saw him in that and then learned that he was a Chicago resident, doing more, and I started doing more research about his background, what he believed in. He had a prominent position with Cook County Health, and then he recently left. And so I got on the phone with him and we just started having a conversation. And after talking to him that first time, I instantly knew that he would be a perfect person to be a part of the film. And one of the main reasons is because I feel that a lot of professionals, especially in the health space, have a hard time taking all their knowledge and translating it in a way that the common man can understand. And
Mhm.
when he did that on the phone for me, I was like, this is the person who's going to instantly connect with people because he's not using the big words and the jargon that gets people scared of trying to change your health. He's the uncle at the barbecue, letting you know some information and teaching you in a way that you can receive it. And so after spending, a short amount of time with him, I knew that he would be great to really get that message out to our community.
And you, Donnie Seals, tell me about your IBM experience and the heart attacks, and then their decision to terminate you.
Well, actually, I was working for IBM. Initially I was teaching IBM internals. That's the code that run their mainframe machines. From there, I went to network specialists and basically putting out fires in the Chicagoland area, fix stuff that nobody else could fix. That's when they called me. And um, didn't know that I was in a stressful situation. All I did was put out fires.
Mm,
Um, and didn't know I was in a stressful situation. I'm in a board meeting. I'm getting ready to get promoted to, well, I just got promoted to director, and I felt funny. I said, man, something's going on. And I went to the bathroom. One of my colleagues came with me and said, man, let's go to the emergency room. The next day I had open heart surgery.
wow. So
Yeah.
you had no. By the way, I'm assuming that you had regular physicals prior to that, right?
Yeah, that's amazing because IBM required at age 35, and I think I was 40-ish, 42, 43 at the time that I had the open heart surgery. At age 35, IBM requires you to mandatory physicals. And I
Mm,
do remember that I had high blood pressure at age 35, and they were concerned about that, and they made me take off some time to get my blood pressure in order.
mm.
But the big thing to me is that I was in that environment, didn't think anything about it, but looking back, I was in a very, very stressful environment that I think had a lot to do with my cardiovascular disease.
And I noticed that you also had a doctor, can't remember her name, who also talked about stress. But tell me about the point where IBM said you have to leave us because you're not physically able to do the work in it.
Well,
Whatever they told you, I don't know.
actually, it wasn't IBM. I had left IBM and I was working for Hitachi at the time, doing the same job,
Huh.
putting up, I was a network specialist. Rather than being in Chicago, I had I had Chicago to the West Coast. And after I had that first open heart surgery, I came back, and at that time, I realized something wasn't right. And I continued to investigate and realized that I need to have a second open heart surgery. And after that second open heart surgery, I was pretty much terminated. They said, the conversation was, you cannot go on long-term leave again. You've already been on it once. You can't go on it again. And I was terminated.
And you were terminated. Were you able to get workman's comp or
That was a battle in itself. To get disability at my age was almost impossible. But working with my doctor, we just went back, I think 3 or 4 times, and I finally got disability. At that point, I got a what's the license plate for disability, so I could
yeah.
park
Mhm.
and that sort of thing. So I was on disability at that point.
Eric, what was it like for you to discover? Because I recall in your introduction to your film, maybe I read this, that you hadn't really interviewed your father about his life. I mean, you talked to him every
Yeah.
day, but you didn't really know the details about what he had gone through in his professional life. What was it like for you as you're working on your documentary and you're learning all of this information about your dad that you didn't know before?
It was eye-opening. I think, just as individuals, we all have someone who gets sick in their family. It's rare that we talk about it. We sit down and talk about it. And so this was the first opportunity, 20 years later, to sit down and ask him all the things that he was going through. And as I start to approach that age and see some of the stress that he's going through or that he went through and how I'm going through some of the similar, things. And so I think it was a healing moment, not only for myself, but for the family. I had never talked to my brother, my sister, my mom. How are you feeling during that time? My older brother, who was probably around 16 at the time, blanked a lot of it out. My sister remembers everything to the T like it happened yesterday. I was about 8 years old. So I was just kind of, now that I think about it, I was just, oh, dad's sick. And so it's just interesting how we have the same experience, but we have a different viewpoint of it.
Mhm.
And it was healing to hear everybody's viewpoint. And I learned more about each family member going throughout this documentary and talking to them about that time frame.
Yeah, and
How long,
let me comment on that too. For
please?
me, looking at those interviews, I had no idea the impact that I had on my family.
Hmm.
And listening to their stories was, man, it was eye-opening to me. And that has a lot to do with my motivation to continue my journey. I want to be as healthy as I can. I tell my, I don't, I tell my daughter, you're not changing my diaper today. Maybe tomorrow, but today I don't need you to change it. So I'm going to be as healthy as I can, as long as I can. And looking at the documentary had a lot to do with my motivation.
How many pounds did you lose?
And some of those pictures, I was 230 plus. I weigh every morning. I'm almost embarrassed to tell you my weight this morning because I'm heavier than I've been. I'm 188 this morning.
Man, that's beautiful. Let me tell
Yeah.
you. And then how tall are you?
I'm 5'8".
Oh man, yeah, fantastic. See, you don't know this, but both of your motivations for me, because I've got my own weight issues, and I have two bikes in my basement that I have not ridden in several years. And watching your doc says to me, let me get one of these bikes out. I was about to use one of these bikes out and get some new tires
There you go.
riding around my neighborhood in Teaneck. Yeah. So there was one other thing I wanted to talk to you about. I'm wondering, on your bike rides, I saw a lot of relationship stuff that you were talking about, Eric, about who was going to be in front, who's going to be behind.
Yeah.
So this was also about a father-son relationship. Um, Tell me a little bit about that from your perspective.
Yeah. So when putting this together, again, being so close to something, sometimes you don't see it. And it wasn't until I made an early cut and someone shared with me, the bike riding stuff is cool and your dad getting healthy is cool, but my favorite part is to see you and your dad interacting with each other. And I never looked at the film at that angle.
Mhm.
I'm close with my father, always have been. He's been there and supported everything that I've done from day one. And so it's what I've always lived, but everybody doesn't have that experience. And so seeing it on film and seeing how we talk to each other, we're the same person for the good, the bad, and the ugly. So while we were riding together, we had a couple of disagreements, but we also learned how to work with each other while we were riding because of some of the training and things that we were doing together. But I always laugh because at the end of the day, he's always the father and I'm always his son. So he always has that plus one on me. Even when I'm right, he's still right.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I have to be respectful and understand that at all times. But it was great for us to be out there as a father-son duo, and just us and hanging out. So it was a great experience.
How many people were part of your film crew? Because I'm looking at all of the drone shots and
Yeah.
all of the wide cutaways and the vistas. I mean, I know that that wasn't easy to do, but
No, it wasn't. Ask
yeah.
me if I'll do it again. That was for that time in 2021. We had about 10 people on the route with us from St. Louis to Chicago, doing long, grueling days. I mean, a usual film day for a crew is 10 hours, 12 if it's, long. But because they had to wake up in the morning and film us before we left. Then they had to film the whole entire ride, which could be anywhere between 10 and 13 hours. And then we had to do interviews after. That team was really dedicated. And that's one of the things that was important to me. I hired a lot of people that I've worked with in the past because they wanted to see this story be told the right way. And so we had a dedicated crew of 10, and it would not have been able to happen if it wasn't for their dedication on that trip.
Okay, I gotta ask, and I don't know if this is a ghost question or not, but my gosh, how much did the production cost and who paid for
Yeah, great question. So all of it came out of my pocket. I applied for a lot of grants and fellowships, and I didn't receive money until after the film was done, which
Wow.
is not when I needed it, but I appreciate it now. I'm not going to be mad about it. The whole entire production cost about 160,000, and that was over the span of so many years. Some of it was favors, some of it was barter, some of it was credit cards, some of it was IOUs.
Well,
But one of the key things for me was when I hire crew for projects that I do, I don't ask for favors in case I need a favor one day. And so I called each individual one of those people that I've worked with on numerous projects, and I said, my favor is coming in and I need a favor, not to work for free, obviously a discounted rate. But it was a big investment.
okay, so now I'm going to bring in another filmmaker who has also participated in Bike Rise. Travion Smith, Trey Smith, um, is joining us for this discussion because he's also very, very interested in health issues. Trey, thank you for being patient as we talked about their film. Now, you have done a film called Pedaling with Purpose as part of your role as a queer filmmaker from Alabama and talking about the challenges that you and your cohort have to deal with in that environment with your particular HIV/AIDS health issues. Talk to me.
I'll start off by saying thank y'all for hosting this, this program. Thank you, Bike Vessel. To Teaneck International Film Festival for hosting Bike Vessel and giving, Black men a platform to discuss the importance of Black men's health. And yeah, you said it. I am from a small town, Lafayette, Alabama, and essentially I came to figure out like what I wanted to do in life was be a documentary filmmaker and make positive creative change. And so I ended up producing a documentary titled Pedaling with Purpose. And in the documentary, we discuss the disproportionate impacts of HIV on Black and Brown communities. And so, yeah, we cover a lot of different topics. We talk about the stigma, the access to healthcare, We even discussed, HIV, immigration, and it's all following my a cycling team that I'm a part of called Team Puro Pinche Papi. And every
Wait,
year
wait,
we
wait,
participate,
wait. Say that again.
Team Puro Pinche Papi.
And what does that mean?
Team Puro Pinche Papis, it means we are pure, papi.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
If you know,
Yeah,
you know.
I'll let y'all go do the translation.
Yeah,
But
got you, got
but
you.
team
Oh,
but
yeah.
team PPP, every year we do ALC and we cycle from San Francisco to LA to raise money for HIV and AIDS research, treatment and prevention.
How
And
long?
yeah,
How long a trip and how much time does that take?
okay. So ALC is a 7-day, 545-mile bike ride.
Wow.
And so I feel y'all shout out to, Brother Eric and Mr. Donnie, because I feel you, man. Around that third day, you're like,
Yeah.
oh,
I can't do it
when is
anymore.
this
Huh?
done?
So and how many people ordinarily participate in that trek, Trey?
So ALC it's a circus. So I tell people it's like you take a small city and you move it down the coast of California, and it's roughly about 2,500 riders and somewhere around 500 support staff, medical,
Wow.
food, water. It's a circus.
Wow. Super.
And and you do this to raise funds for HIV, AIDS, medical care?
Yeah, everything from treatment to prevention, advocacy, medication, you name it. These all of these funds go to supporting the SF AIDS Foundation and the LA LGBTQ Center, two really, really crucial organizations that have been there and supporting the queer community since the beginning of the AIDS epidemic.
Now, you talk about the need to focus on healthcare issues for Black and Brown people, but one of the things that sort of is a through line for what you do and for what Eric and Mr. Seals have done is to talk about the reticence of a lot of men to confront medical issues. For example, I've had this conversation with some friends of mine about the necessity of colonoscopies, which a lot of guys don't want to hear about, don't want to do it until it's like too late. So, Mr. Seals, Donnie, how in your you're not as old as I am, but I'm assuming that you've had conversations with people in your age group. What do you tell them about the necessity of not only regular physicals, which you had, but also listening to your body and changing your dietary habits to improve your possibility of longevity?
Oh wow, that's a whole lot there. I basically express to them, one, in the medical field, you have to take ownership in your body. It's your body. And when a doctor tells you one thing and you have questions about it, there's nothing wrong with getting another opinion. In terms of the food, Randall, I get beat up so much by my diet. And I'm not talking about dieting, I'm talking about my daily intake. Family, friends, even some of the guys that I ride with now, they eat a lot of pork and a lot of beef. And I'm like, guys, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I just don't eat it. So please respect me for not eating it. Bottom line, Randall, take ownership in your body, in your life, and do what you need to do. If you go to the doctor and you're not getting what you need, go to another doctor. Stop eating all this processed foods and all this junk that we eat. I was looking at a label, my wife brought home something, and I looked at the label and I said, this isn't food, don't buy this again. I couldn't pronounce anything on the label, so basically taking ownership.
That's what Dr. Mason was saying, that if you're looking at an ingredient label and you can't pronounce the ingredients, you don't know what the heck it means,
Right.
don't eat it.
Right.
Eric, did you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, no, it's interesting how simple some of the best information is to better your life. Dr. Terry Mason said, from the not being able to pronounce it, The things that they're doing to preserve food, to make food bigger and larger and more plentiful. There's a reason that we're having some of these side effects.
Mm.
And just to look at the label sometimes can really let you know, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be consuming this.
And
Um,
just, I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. Go ahead, Trey. Yeah.
No, just to weigh in on that. Another one of his quotes, Dr. Mason, was "There's no money in healthy people," right?
Mm.
And
Hmm.
so you have these systems that are put in place purposefully trying to keep us black men down. And it's heartbreaking to see, your experience, Mr. Donnie, and how they were waiting to put you in the ground so they can save a dollar,
Yeah,
you know.
thank you for reminding me because that was a wow, that was a mind-blowing segment of your documentary, Eric, where they were waiting for your dad to die.
Yeah.
What the?
Well, I can respond to that. Basically, the insurance company had an option to pay me off completely, um, one-time check, and we're done with you. And the reasoning they didn't do that, it was like, you're going to die before you're 65 anyway, so we're going to try to save a few dollars and just pay you off. Hopefully, you'll die before age
You're a
60.
number to them. They hedged their bets and they said, statistically, we can keep our money if we don't. I mean, I don't even fault them for it. That's what they do. They're not known for, I mean, when people are losing their homes and all these different things, and people are fighting insurance companies and all the money that you're paying to hopefully get some type of benefit from them if something does happen. Not even surprised at that standpoint, but Trey, as you said earlier, the connection from food to doctors to health and all that, and how it's just a big circle,
Mhm.
is really eye opening
Oh yeah.
with all of
Yeah,
this.
because sorry to cut you off, but when we realize that we are either a check or a liability to them, then we start to realize, okay, I need to be more in charge of my health. I need to focus on the things that are going to keep me here because either I'm going to have to pay into a system or somebody's about to cash out on me.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
Specifically to the HIV/AIDS issue, now Trey,
Mhm.
given the fact that there are now drugs available for treatment, how shall we say? I don't want to say relaxed, but how attentive? How
Yeah.
uh yeah, go ahead.
I get what you're saying. I think now people have become a lot more lax on the topic of HIV and AIDS because they thought, oh, this was just, a disease that was spread throughout the 80s and 90s, 2000s. Now we got medicine that protects us. But who is it actually protecting? You look at the statistics and yeah, it's slowly, going down. But in what communities are they going down in, right? And so I'm gonna hit you with a statistic. So in Latin communities, they make up about 37% of the population, but Latin men make up 30% of new diagnoses. Black men, a little bit worse. So we make up about 12% of the population, but we make up 41% of new diagnoses, meaning we're 6 times more likely than our white
Wow.
counterparts to be
Wow.
diagnosed with HIV. And
And
so
what kind of access to the medicine that you need? Because as I understand, it's very expensive, and if you don't have the right insurance plan, you're SOL.
well, yeah, and that's exactly right. And you think about the inequities that Black people, especially Black men, face, right? Inequities in education, healthcare, resources. And so if you're not situated in a position where you know people who can help you with coupons to get medication or get to the right, take time off of work to get to the doctor to get a checkup or even go get tested, then how are you supposed to expect that? It's going to go down in all communities when the system is literally situated to keep us, at the bottom. And so that's the importance of, what we do, Team PPP, is we want to make people aware. We want to get people motivated and out to go do the work. Because like I said earlier, we can't rely on the government and the systems that they enable to take care of us. We have to go out and actually do the work ourselves.
Now,
You
your film, Pedaling with Purpose, when will it be available to be seen and where? Yeah.
So, Pedaling with Purpose, we actually just wrapped up with our film festival circuit. Brought home a couple of awards, so we're grateful for that. And so now we're hoping that we can leverage that and try to find somebody, a studio, or somebody who will take it. And actually, I was listening in about your documentary. Man, y'all had a good budget, dog. I wish I had I wish I had that budget, but yeah, and us, as indie filmmakers, we try to make the best of what we got, and we made our film happen with a lot less.
Prayer.
Community. It's all about community. It's calling in those favors, reaching out to people that you know, and so hopefully we can continue to expand our community and get somebody to accept our film and put it out there for the world. So maybe sometime this year.
Good, good. Now, those of you who are still with us at the Teaneck International Film Festival, of course, you have seen Bike Vessel one-time showing. But Eric, when will it be available, and where will it be available for people who weren't fortunate enough to see it on this showing?
Yeah, so tell your friends and family and people that would be interested in the story. On February 24th, we're going to be having Bike Vessel air on PBS and Independent Lens, who acquired it late last year. It's going to be available free for 3 months. I think it's a 3-month window. And then after that, it goes behind a paid wall. So I'm really hoping during that 3-month stint, we can really share with our community so we can get some people, hopefully on bikes, but if it's not on bikes, something that gets them active and out of the house.
Okay, excellent. Very good.
Can I add one more thing to that? I'm sorry, not to piggyback, but also if you want to stay updated on our film, Pedaling with Purpose, you can find us on Instagram at Pedaling with Purpose.
Pedaling with Purpose. Very good. Mr. Seals, any closing thoughts, Donnie?
I would just tell your audience and the people viewing the film, even Pedaling with Purpose, find your vessel. Find what works for you. I mean, for me, it was cycling. For you, it could be line dancing. It could be walking. It can be bowling. Find your vessel. Find something that you love, and you'll continue to do it and get healthy.
Change your diet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Much easier said than done, but necessary. Very, very necessary. Thank you, Donnie Seals, Eric Seals, Travion Smith, for participating with us today in this very important discussion, not only about the film, but about being proactive, being intentional, about paying attention to our health, and how we can improve it. Thank you. And we also want to thank PBS, Independent Lens Pop-Up, the Puffin Cultural Forum, and the Teaneck Public Library for sponsoring Bike Vessel, which will premiere, as Eric indicated, on February 24th on PBS. So check your local listings for the showing nearest you. I'm Randall Pinkston for the Teaneck International Film Festival. Thank you all for joining us. Good night.